So, let's jump right into a thought experiment that's been messing with people's heads for, about 2,400 years. It comes from the philosopher Plato, and it asks a question about morality that feels like it could have been written for us, today.
Okay, let's get right down to it. Imagine for a second that you could do anything you wanted with absolutely no consequences. No one would see you, no one could ever prove it was you. Would you still do the right thing? Your answer to that question, well, it gets to the very heart of what it even means to be a good person.
Now, this isn't just some fun hypothetical. It's actually a famous philosophical challenge called the invisibility test, and it's specifically designed to figure out why we're good in the first place.
To get it, we've got to go way back to ancient Greece, around 380 BC. In his masterpiece, The Republic, Plato actually has his own brother, a guy named Glaucon, tell this story as a way to challenge the great philosopher Socrates.
And that story, the one that kicked off this whole massive debate, is the legend of a regular shepherd named Gyges.
So the story goes that Gyges stumbles upon this ring, and he quickly figures out that when he twists it on his finger, poof, he becomes totally invisible. So what does he do? He walks right into the palace, seduces the queen, they plot together to kill the king, and he takes over the entire kingdom. And here's the kicker. He gets away with all of it. The ring completely removes any external reason for him to be a good person. And this leads to Glaucon's pretty cynical conclusion. He basically says, give that ring to anyone, even the most supposedly just person you know, and they'll end up doing the exact same thing. Why? Because according to him, the only thing holding us back is the fear of getting caught.
So, as you've probably figured out, this whole story isn't really about a magic ring. It's a clever way to force a debate about why any of us choose to be good at all.
This is the core of it, right here. Are we good people because it comes from inside us, because it's genuinely who we are? Or is it all just a performance, a social contract we follow because we're scared of punishment and we want people to like us? The ring is just a tool to strip all that away.
And this lays out the two big, opposing ideas. On one side, you've got Glaucon. He thinks justice is instrumental. It's just a tool we use to get what we want, like a good reputation, and to avoid what we don't want, like going to jail. But on the other side, you have Socrates, who argues that justice is intrinsic. It's something good in and of itself, something essential for our own inner peace, whether anyone is watching or not.
So what the Ring of Gyges really does is it forces us to choose. What do we think justice is really built on? Is it all just instrumental? A system of carrots and sticks to keep us in line? Or is it intrinsic, a fundamental part of having a healthy, balanced mind?
You might be thinking, okay, that's a neat story from a long time ago, but it's just a fantasy. But what if it isn't? What if I told you that our modern world has its own versions of the Ring of Gyges?
I mean, here's the wild part. This whole thought experiment is probably more real for us now than it ever was for Plato. We don't need a magic ring to feel invisible. We've built systems that do it for us.
Just think about it for a second. Anonymity online, the things people are willing to say in a comment section or a private message when they think their real name isn't attached. Or what about people in positions of power with basically no oversight? All of these are modern-day forms of invisibility, where people believe they can act without ever being held accountable.
Yeah, the internet really is the perfect example. It's a space that provides this shield of perceived anonymity, and it reveals a person's true character in a way Plato would have found absolutely fascinating. How you act when you think no one's watching, that tells the real story.
So, faced with Glaucon's pretty bleak view of humanity and seeing it play out online every day, what was Socrates' big comeback? How did he argue that we should still be good, even with that ring on our finger? Well, he brought it all back to what's going on inside us.
Socrates' counter-argument is actually pretty powerful. He says justice isn't about following external rules. It's about the internal state of your own soul, of your character. And he argues that an unjust person, by their very nature, has a chaotic and disordered soul. So even if the person with the ring gets everything they could ever want, all the power, all the wealth, just like Gyges did, Socrates would argue that they are deeply miserable. Why? Because their soul is a mess, completely run by their lowest appetites and impulses instead of by reason. In a very real way, they aren't free at all. They're actually a slave to their own worst instincts. And that leaves us with the final, really tough question. Do you buy what Socrates is selling? Is the person who gets away with everything actually the most miserable one of all because their soul is in chaos? Or is that just a nice story philosophers tell themselves because the alternative, that some people do terrible things, profit from it, and are perfectly happy, is just too dark for us to handle?
What you decide says a whole lot about you.